And I think it started, Bernie will love this one, I think it started very young, being brought up in a very strict Catholic household where we said the rosary every day. We had to kneel down and lean on the chairs in the dining room. Well, we didn't have dining rooms. We weren't that highfalutin. We had a very basic house. My father was a grocer. My mother worked in a woolen mills. She'd come home black and blue when the shuttle would come out and hit her in the hip or something. But I think that all started then where I learnt the art of praying.
Yeah.
And back then, my father used to make sure we knew things in Latin because that was the church's way. And him and I would ride our bikes, at 6:30 in the morning down in central Otago. Well, actually, it wasn't. It was in Otago in New Zealand. Very cold. Ice and snow sometimes back then. It's very different now. But we would go to Mass every day, and I remember saying to my father, why don't they heat the church? No, it's good for you. It makes you stronger. And my fingers would be white trying to say something in Latin, But I think I learnt then that there was a greater being. I wouldn't use that word God so much these days as universal power. I don't even like that word. Let's say universal connection. I think that's more freeing, isn't it?
Yeah. It needn't be personified. If you say God, it tends to be an entity. It tends to have a mind of its own. You're just talking about a feeling of connection to this greater thing, this greater network.
How Catholic are you now, Mary?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I feel
you've
I know how you feel.
I feel pretty disillusioned. I've still got the flat knees to prove it that I've felt for a long time.
So despite the fact that very early on it actually gave you a seed of awareness of something greater.
And I'm grateful for that,
Yeah, you're grateful for that. But now the Catholicism, and as Chips was talking about, the definition of God there is sort of like dropped away and it's just replaced with an appreciation of something greater than self.
Absolutely. And just go outside at night in a rural area, lay down on the grass if you like, and look up there and say, wow. Like, you couldn't help but say, wow. Even on a foggy night, there's still little lights that you can see that you go, I've got to be connected to that.
Yeah.
I take the dogs out at night and I talk to them. What can you see tonight? You know?
This is where we need to thank Louise too, Chip, because Louise talked about you look out there at night time and she's saying, well, that's, what do I want to call that? She calls that nature. Somehow the force of nature has created all that. And then she looks at the tree beside her and says, force of nature has caused that. Then I look in the mirror and say, the force of nature has caused this too. Oh, there's nature. It's everywhere.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I like that. The other thing that I think, and I was taking from what you said about God, is that if I reflect on that, and I do a lot of reflection, every day I reflect, it gives me the sense of greater than and less than. God is greater than, I must be less than. Whereas when you talk about universal energy and having a deep appreciation for everything around us, there's so much equality in that.
Yeah.
You know, we're all equal.
Chip, there it is again. Innocence.
Yeah.
That's where we first were introduced to the whole concept of the wonderful dichotomy of feeling so minuscule, so small in the presence of the Spirit. And yet when we feel so connected with it, we feel so grand.
Exactly.
And at the same time, an incredible human experience.